Hey everyone, you're watching Fox 10 Talks. Brian Webb has left the country, actually.
Really?
Yes,
I had no
Zurich,
idea.
Switzerland.
Oh!
Yeah, we're constantly refreshing the Interpol site just to see what's Brian up to on his vacay.
That's a good move. I didn't
Yeah.
know if you were going to try to just have me pass for Brian Webb this whole
We
time.
could, just to see if people are paying
Yeah.
attention.
I know what
Yeah,
you're thinking.
yeah.
I'm just too darn young and attractive to be Brian Webb, but...
Right. Full of vigor, though, nonetheless. Steve Nielsen in on the desk with me. Really appreciate that. But once again, Steve, we are joined by Harvard professor Dr. Avi Loeb.
Yes.
Now, Avi, a lot has happened in the last week, and thank you again for making some time for us here at Fox 10 Talks. Again, I think we should start off, if we could, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Now, she, of course, saw the latest information that you had last week and had wrote a letter to NASA asking that the Juno mission could direct part of that to study the 3I Atlas object in space. Can you tell us what's going on?
Thanks for having me. Yes, in fact, a week ago, last Tuesday, I received a phone call from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, and she wanted an update about the 3I Atlas because it's not clear what the nature of this object is, and she was curious, and we talked about it, and I mentioned that just the day before, I wrote a scientific paper suggesting to use the Juno spacecraft, which is in orbit around Jupiter, and they were planning, NASA was planning to crash it into Jupiter and end its mission, because the mission started in 2011. It's now very long, and I wrote in my paper that instead of pushing it into Jupiter, let's push it away from Jupiter towards the path of this new interstellar object, 3I Atlas, because we still don't understand it, and it might be quite interesting. And she was fascinated by this possibility and wrote a letter to the current interim administrator of NASA, Duffy, and I really salute her for doing that. I think it will be great for NASA in terms of public relations, and I'm communicating with the team of Juno to figure out how much fuel is left and how close can we come to the path of 3I Atlas. Juno has a lot of instruments and in principle can probe the nature of the object in ways that are quite different than the remote observing that we can do from Earth.
And I mean, if this thing is indeed extraterrestrial, having even 10 more minutes of heads up on what's going on out there, that would be crucial information. This would probably provide us, what, several weeks of data before it actually got here.
Right. Now, it will actually get to Jupiter after passing close to the sun. So it will get closest to the sun on the 29th of October, 2025. And then get close to Jupiter, surprisingly, because it is moving in the plane of the planets, which is one unusual anomaly of this object. But it will get to Jupiter in the middle of March 2026. So I showed that if you give a push to Juno in the right direction in the middle of September, when it was supposed to sink into Jupiter, if you just give it a push away from Jupiter, it could meet in principle, intercept the path of 3I Atlas in mid-March 2026. That would be exciting. We also get interesting data already from the Hubble Space Telescope and today, presumably, also from the Webb Telescope. And I should say the Hubble images of 3I Atlas are quite puzzling because you see a glow in front of the object instead of trailing it the way that comets usually look like.
Wow. And have there been any theories of yours of what could possibly be that glow that would be in front of the object instead of the tail, like you said?
Well, one possibility is that the front of the object, as it moves towards the sun, is hotter. That's the day side of this object. And as a result of that, it evaporates. But the problem is we see this glow in front, but we don't see any evidence for molecules that usually characterize cometary plumes around the comets, molecules that are carbon-based. There is no evidence for them. People have tried to look for them. And so maybe this is dust without any gas. That seems unusual. And we still need to understand what is going on. As it gets closer to the sun, it will get warmer, and then perhaps we would see more details about its nature.
Trying to understand if this is extraterrestrial, and the idea is that it's been launched from somewhere or came from another planet, are you able to determine, based on the trajectory we've had so far, what solar system that could have come from, and with how fast it's traveling, how long ago would this thing need to have been launched to get here?
Right. So it's moving at a very high speed, 1,000 times faster than the speed limit on a highway, at 60 kilometers per second. So what a car does roughly in 1 hour, it does in 1 second. It has entered the outer boundary of the solar system, the so-called Oort cloud, about 8,000 years ago at that speed. This boundary is 100,000 times the Earth-Sun separation. And so 8,000 years ago is when humans started to document their history. It's relatively recent. And then, if it came from some base, if it's actually alien technology, maybe they have a base in the outer solar system, at 1,000 times the Earth-Sun separation, it would have taken it about 80 years to reach us. That's roughly the period over which we broadcasted our technological advances. So if someone is listening to us out there, they could potentially visit us on a reconnaissance mission. And the reason I was suspicious of this object is, first of all, from its brightness, if you assume it's a solid object, has to be 20 kilometers, and there is just not enough rocky material in interstellar space to deliver once per decade such a giant rock. A 20-kilometer rock can arrive at our vicinity once per 10,000 years or so. There is just not enough material. And moreover, it has a very special orbit. The trajectory is in the plane of the motion of the planets around the sun. That's a 1 in 500 chance. And then it comes close to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus with a 1 in 20,000 chance. And so the question is whether this trajectory was designed. And we have to watch it to figure it out. The one interesting point is I wrote a paper this morning suggesting a risk scale. Now it's called the Loeb scale for assessing.
Congrats on that, by the way.
For assessing whether an object is completely natural. If we see a comet or an asteroid or icy rock out there that shows all the properties of icy rocks in our backyard in the solar system, then it gets a 0 on that scale. However, if it seems to be technological because it maneuvers, it has some propulsion, an engine, or it emits artificial light, then we can conclude that it's technological, and that would rank it as 10 on that scale. And this is really important for us to do for every object that enters the vicinity of Earth from outside the solar system, because we just don't know who our neighbors are.
Yes. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, Dr. Loeb, last time we spoke, we talked about, obviously, there's the Fermi paradox, which most people are familiar with if the universe is so vast and abundant, then where's all the life at? Where's that happening? But you also mentioned the answer to that paradox, a proposal of the dark forest theory, where like a hunter in the forest wanting to hide from different predators, and that intelligent life could adapt to that, where it's aware of other intelligent life, and obviously keeping those signals not as bright. But we spoke about that our first priority, if this has any indication that it might be from an alien intelligence, is to listen, don't speak, like we would on a date, especially a blind date. But can you speak a little bit about what the human response might be together here on Earth? Do you see nations putting aside their differences? I know that President Reagan had talked about that in a famous speech with the Soviet Union, that we'd be willing to put aside our differences to unite together as humanity. Do you see that scenario happening? Or would we play like we do with every situation, every person for themselves?
This was a very wise statement from President Reagan, and in fact, he's responsible for me being in the U.S. because I led the first international project of the Strategic Defense Initiative that is now rejuvenated in the context of the Golden Dome. The way I see it is that if we identify on this Loeb scale, identify a technological object that is close to 10, there needs to be a discussion between policymakers and the scientists about how to respond to it. And the response, just imagine a visitor to your backyard. The way you respond to that visitor, it depends on who the visitor is, what the capabilities of the visitor are, and what the intent is. And therefore, we should collect as much data, we should observe before having an opinion. But eventually, we'll have to respond if the visitor comes very close to us and perhaps even gets to Earth. Or we see, we could see mini probes that were released by some mothership that passes nearby, and we will see activity in the Earth's atmosphere. The question is what to do about that. And there needs to be an international organization, because presumably the aliens don't care how we split territories on this Earth. For them it's irrelevant, and this will be a problem for all humans. So there needs to be some coordination among all. We are all in the same boat. And just like President Reagan said, I do think it will bring people together. When you have an external threat, people tend to unite. And that, in a way, is a messianic era. If you think about the arrival of the Messiah, maybe that will come from another star, in the sense that it will bring peace to Earth among all humans. I hope so. I also hope that it will not endanger the future of humanity. And I hope that we could learn from any technologies that they might have that we don't have. We will learn about new science as well.
Awesome. I really appreciate you joining us. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours.
Yes.
And what's cool about this, even if it isn't something alien like that, it's still a cool thing we don't know anything about. It's a new thing we get to learn about.
So much out there.
Yeah.
Dr. Avi Loeb, thank you, sir.
My basic point is that science can be fun, and that you never should lose your childhood curiosity. Don't pretend to be the adult in the room.
Love it.
that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.